Imagine this. You're a month into what feels like the perfect marriage. You're living that dream, the one where every morning feels like you're waking up next to your best friend. Then, out of nowhere, she hits you with a curveball that feels more like a wrecking ball. She wants an open marriage. Yeah, that was me, standing there, jaw on the floor, trying to wrap my head around what my wife, Jess, just suggested. At first, I thought it was a joke. I mean, we were those people who made others sick with how in love we were. But the look in her eyes told me she was dead serious. She talked about exploring and trusting each other more, about how this could strengthen our bond. I couldn't see it, not at first. The idea of sharing the love of my life with someone else felt like a betrayal of the vows we just made. But Jess, she's persuasive. She painted this picture of us being this ultra-modern couple, completely secure and trusting in each other's love. It's about growing together, exploring our desires without losing what we have, she said. I remember looking into her eyes, searching for the girl I married, wondering if I even knew her at all. After a lot of talks, and I mean a lot, I reluctantly agreed. The thought nagged at me, though. Was I not enough? But seeing her excitement at this new adventure we were embarking on made it hard to say no. We laid down rules, talked about boundaries, and promised it would only be physical with others. The emotional connections were off limits. The thing is, the whole thing felt off to me. While Jess dove headfirst into this new lifestyle, finding excitement in someone new, I couldn't shake the feeling of dread in the pit of my stomach. Every time she went out, I imagined her with someone else, and it killed me. But I kept my word, trying to explore my own connections, trying to find some sort of excitement she seemed to have found so easily. But all I found was emptiness and a growing distance between us. I remember one night, she came home, her eyes sparkling with a fire I hadn't seen in a while. She talked about this guy she met, how different it was, and all I could do was fake a smile, feeling like I was being slowly erased from her heart. That night, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling, wondering how we got here, how my dream marriage turned into a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. It wasn't just the open marriage. It was watching the person I loved most in the world drift away from me, chasing something I couldn't give her. Every day, I felt like I was losing her more and more, and the worst part was, I agreed to it. I signed up for my own heartbreak. In those early days, I kept asking myself if this was what love really looked like. Was it supposed to feel like your heart was being ripped out every other day? Jess seemed happier. Sure, but at what cost? Our connection, once unbreakable, felt fragile, like it could shatter at any moment. So yeah, that's where my story begins. In a love I thought was unshakable, faced with a proposal that shook everything to its core. And me? I was just trying to hold on to the pieces, hoping I could somehow fit them back together. Married life's supposed to be this amazing journey you embark on with your best friend. That was the dream, at least until that curveball a month in. My wife, with her eyes gleaming with what I thought was love, dropped a bomb about wanting an open marriage. It'll strengthen us, she said. I just stared, feeling like the floor beneath me turned to quicksand. Here I was, thinking we were unbreakable, and suddenly, I'm questioning everything. My initial reaction? No way. It felt like a betrayal, a crack in the very foundation we just started to build. But she was persistent, painting this picture of freedom, trust, and exploration. Eventually, my resistance wore down. I agreed, reluctantly, holding on to a shred of hope that maybe this could somehow bring us closer. So, we laid down the rules, stepping into this uncharted territory. She dived in headfirst, finding excitement and connections that seemed to light her up in ways I hadn't seen. Me? I was lost, drifting further from her with each passing day. The connections I sought felt hollow, each encounter a stark reminder of what I was missing at home. Then, out of nowhere, she saw it. The distance, the disconnection, my struggle to embrace this open marriage concept. The realization hit her hard, sparking a tension between us that felt like a chasm. It was during this time, in my loneliness, that I stumbled upon someone. This woman. She was different. Our connection was unexpected, deep, and filled with a solace I'd been craving. She understood me in ways I couldn't explain, not even to myself. When my wife caught wind of this, jealousy flared up. It was ironic, really. She confronted me, her voice laced with accusation and hurt. Who was she? She demanded, as if the answer would change everything. That confrontation spiraled into an argument that laid bare all the unsaid, unresolved issues between us. In the heat of that moment, my walls crumbled. I've fallen in love with her, I confessed. The words hung heavy between us, a painful truth neither of us could escape. My wife, struggling with a mix of guilt and desperation, suggested we close our marriage again, try to salvage what was left of us. But it wasn't that simple. How do you backtrack on feelings that have found a home in your heart? This chapter of our lives, filled with turmoil and revelation, forced us to confront the very essence of our connection. What started as a quest to strengthen our bond had led us to a crossroads, challenging the very notion of love and commitment we thought we understood. In the midst of this chaos, I found clarity in the most unexpected place. It was a bittersweet realization, understanding that sometimes love evolves, leading us down paths we never anticipated. As I navigated the stormy waters of my marriage, I couldn't help but wonder if the journey was about finding our way back to each other or bravely venturing into new beginnings. In a twist of fate I never saw coming, there I was, caught between the woman I married and the woman who reignited the spark in me. The decision felt like a heavy anchor around my neck, each day sinking me deeper into a sea of turmoil. It's one thing to find yourself in love with someone outside your marriage. It's another to confront the reality of leaving your wife for that love. But deep down, I knew, with her, I felt a sense of understanding and fulfillment that had been missing in my life. It wasn't easy, but I chose my new love. That decision, though, was just the beginning of a storm that was about to break. My wife, feeling betrayed and humiliated, wasn't about to let this slide quietly. The air around us became charged with her plans for revenge, a toxic mix of anger and hurt brewing beneath the surface. She turned into someone I barely recognized, orchestrating a web of lies aimed at tearing apart what I had found with my new love. She spread rumors, sowed seeds of distrust, and watched, waiting for it all to crumble. Amidst this chaos, an old flame of hers reappeared, offering a shoulder for her to lean on. It was a strange twist, watching her find solace in someone from her past, especially as our present was disintegrating. But her plans didn't go unchecked. Her closest friend, someone she confided in, turned the tables on her. This friend, who'd watched the destruction unfold, couldn't stand by any longer and spilled everything to me. Confronting my wife was something out of a nightmare. The air between us crackled with tension as years of love, anger, and betrayal collided. How could you? I asked, the weight of her actions settling in my chest like lead. Her eyes, once full of love, now flashed with defiance and pain. You left me no choice, she shot back, her words slicing through the remnants of what we once had. That argument laid bare the raw, painful truth of our situation. There was no going back, no words to unsay, no actions to undo. The revelations from her friend had exposed the depth of her betrayal, leaving us in the ruins of our marriage. The confrontation was devastating, not just for the love lost, but for the realization of how far we'd fallen from the people we used to be. As I stood there, facing the woman I had vowed to spend my life with, I realized that this was more than just the end of a marriage. It was the shattering of trust, the breaking of bonds that we thought were unbreakable. The path forward was unclear, but one thing was certain: the choices we made and the actions we took had changed us forever. The aftermath of our confrontation left us both adrift, navigating the wreckage of a relationship that, once upon a time, we thought would withstand anything. Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the video so far. If you do, please take a moment to hit that like button. It really helps me out and lets me know you appreciate the content. Also, if you haven't already, consider subscribing to the channel. Subscribing is a great way to stay updated with all the latest videos and to be part of our growing community. It's quick, it's free, and it ensures you won't miss out on any upcoming content. So go ahead, smash that like button and hit subscribe. Your support means a lot and keeps this channel going. Thanks for watching. The moment you realize your entire world is about to shift on its axis is both terrifying and oddly calming. It was in the quiet aftermath of a storm, the one my wife and I had brewed and lived in. That clarity hit me like a freight train. She stood there, a mix of defiance and despair in her eyes, finally understanding the magnitude of the chasm her actions had created between us. It was a hard sight to behold. The woman I once thought I'd spend my life with, grappling with the wreckage she'd wrought. But life, as they say, goes on. And in my case, it was about to take a significant turn. My new love, who had been a beacon of light in the darkness, reached her limit. "It's me or the chaos," she said, her voice steady but her eyes betraying the pain of even having to utter such an ultimatum. It wasn't just a choice between two people. It was a choice between two paths, continuing down a road marred by manipulation and hurt, or stepping onto a new, untrodden path filled with potential for genuine happiness. I chose the latter. It wasn't an easy decision, but it felt like the only one possible for a future where love and honesty could flourish. The moment I communicated my decision to my wife, I saw the final thread of hope extinguish in her eyes. It was a heart-wrenching moment, but a necessary end to a chapter that had caused us both too much pain. The fallout was immediate and intense. My wife's downfall was not just in losing me, but in facing the alienation from friends, in the community we once shared. Her actions, once driven by hurt and a desire for control, had led her to a solitary path. As I packed my bags, preparing to leave with my new love, I couldn't help but look back at the home we had built, now a symbol of dreams turned to dust. But life is about moving forward, and as we drove away, I felt a weight lifting. There was sorrow for what had been lost, yes, but also a burgeoning sense of hope for what was to come. Alone, my wife was left to reckon with the fallout of her decisions. I heard through the grapevine that she sought redemption, reaching out to those she had wronged in a bid to make amends. It was a tough journey for her, one filled with many rejections and hard truths about the consequences of her actions. Her reflection on the destruction caused by her hands was a stark reminder of the cost of revenge and manipulation. In those quiet moments of transition, I found myself reflecting on the entire ordeal. The pain, the betrayal, and ultimately, the growth. It was a chapter of my life I'd never forget. One that taught me about the complexities of love, the depth of forgiveness, and the strength it takes to move on. As my new love and I started our journey together, I couldn't help but hope that my wife would find her path to redemption, one that would lead her to a place of peace and self-forgiveness. For me, the future was uncertain but filled with promise. I was ready to embrace whatever came next, holding tightly to the lessons learned and the love that had survived the storm. In the aftermath of a storm, the world often seems quieter, almost reflective. That's how it felt, standing on the precipice of a life I no longer recognized, a life dismantled by choices both made and unmade. I had found a semblance of peace, a new beginning with someone who understood the silent parts of me. But peace, it seems, is often a prelude to further upheaval. Her attempts at redemption, a late-stage plea for forgiveness and understanding, were met with the kind of silence that speaks louder than any words could. Each outreach, each apology, seemed to dissolve into the void, met with nothing but cold rejection from those she had hurt. The damage was too deep, the wounds too fresh. Even her old flame, who had reappeared like a beacon of hope amid the chaos, eventually saw through the facade. His departure wasn't dramatic. There were no parting shots or bitter recriminations. He simply vanished, leaving her to confront the reality of her isolation. I watched from a distance, not out of spite or a desire to see her suffer, but because I couldn't extricate myself completely from the narrative we had shared. Her descent was palpable, a spiral of regret and realization that seemed to consume her from the inside out. It was heart-wrenching, in a way, to witness the person you once loved become a shadow, haunted by the specter of choices past. The final confrontation was inevitable. She sought me out, desperation and defiance mingling in her eyes. But what could she say? What words could bridge the chasm that had opened between us? We stood there, amidst the detritus of our failed marriage, surrounded by the echoes of what had once been. Her words fell flat, dissipating against the armor I had built around my heart. My response, when it came, was not born of anger or malice. but of acceptance. It's over, I said, the finality of it hanging in the air between us. The divorce was a drawn-out affair, each preceding a reminder of the distance we had traversed from those early, hopeful days. The legal battle drained more than just resources. It seemed to leach away the last vestiges of respect and affection, leaving behind a residue of bitterness and regret. As the proceedings dragged on, the support network she once commanded withered away. Friends, family, those who had once been pillars in her life, receded into the background, unwilling or unable to align themselves with the architect of her own downfall. It was a sobering realization, the understanding that the consequences of our actions ripple far beyond the immediate horizon, affecting not just our own lives but the lives of those around us. In the end, she was left to navigate the aftermath alone, a solitary figure adrift in a sea of her own making. The chapter of our lives that had been written together was closed, the final sentences etched in the legal documents that severed what had once been an unbreakable bond. The story, however, continues. Life moves forward, not in spite of our scars, but because of them, each step a testament to the resilience of the human spirit, even in the face of profound loss. The thing about hitting rock bottom is that it's not just a figure of speech, it's a real, tangible place, and I watched someone I once loved find it. The descent wasn't just hers alone, it was a spectacle, a story that unfolded publicly, fueling gossip and drawing the kind of attention that turns a personal tragedy into a community theater. We moved, my new love and I, to a city where the streets didn't echo with the whispers of our past. It was a fresh start, a chance to build something untouched by the wreckage we left behind. But not everyone gets to turn the page so easily. She was left to face the aftermath alone. The solitude a stark contrast to the life we once shared. She tried, though. I'll give her that. She tried to start over, moving to a place where no one knew her name or her story. But the thing about the past is, it's like a shadow. No matter how fast you run, or how far you go, it follows. She sought normalcy, a slice of life that wasn't marred by the choices she made. But normalcy is elusive when you're running from ghosts. Rumors have a way of spreading, seeping through the cracks of a new life, poisoning the ground on which you're trying to rebuild. They followed her, relentless reminder of the life she tried to leave behind. Every new interaction was shadowed by the specter of her past, making connections fleeting, superficial. The whispers weren't just in her head. They were real, spoken in hushed tones by those who thought they knew her story. It's a strange thing to watch from a distance as someone you were once so intimately connected with struggles to find their footing. There's a part of you that wants to reach out, to offer a hand in the darkness. But some chasms are too wide to bridge, some wounds too deep to heal. The solitude became her constant companion, a byproduct of actions and choices that, in hindsight, she might have regretted. But life doesn't come with a rewind button. We can only move forward, carrying the weight of our past decisions. As for me, I found peace in the new beginnings, a sense of contentment that had eluded me for so long. But the happiness wasn't without its pangs of guilt, knowing that not everyone got to enjoy the tranquility of starting anew. They say time heals all wounds, but some scars are too deep, too visible. They don't just fade away. They redefine us, shaping our paths in ways we never anticipated. The echoes of the past, the whispers and rumors, they're reminders of the journeys we've taken, the decisions we've made, and the lives we've touched, for better or worse. In the end, we're all just trying to find our way, navigating the complexities of life with hope of finding a bit of peace, a sense of normalcy amidst the chaos. But sometimes, the journey is more about the lessons learned than the destination reached. And as I look back, I can't help but wonder if those lessons were worth the cost. In the aftermath of our unraveling lives, where the shards of a once radiant love lay scattered, I found myself navigating through a tempest of emotions and legalities that neither of us had anticipated in our wildest dreams. Our story, once whispered sweetly in the dark, became a spectacle for public consumption, a cautionary tale of love, freedom, and the cost of both. The final chapters of our marriage unfolded under the harsh spotlight of scrutiny, with every move and decision dissected by those who only knew our story through the lens of their own biases and judgments. The woman I once vowed to spend my life with, to protect and cherish through every storm, stood on the other side of insurmountable divide, her actions having set into motion a series of events that led us here. As the divorce proceedings drew to a close, the weight of our shared history, the love that once bound us so tightly, felt like chains around my heart. Yet, the finality of the legal documents brought a somber kind of relief. It was over. The ink dried, signaling the end of a chapter neither of us ever wanted to write. In the silence that followed, a profound sense of loss enveloped me. Not just the loss of the woman I loved, but the loss of the life I had envisioned for us. It was in this reflective solitude that I came to understand the full extent of the wreckage. The dreams we built, the promises we made, all lay in ruins, casualties of choices made and paths taken. It was during this time of introspection and healing that an unexpected encounter took place. She, the one who had become my solace and my new beginning, stood face to face with the woman who had once held my heart. The exchange between them, though brief, was laden with the weight of unspoken regrets and harsh truths. The new love in my life, with a grace and strength that never ceased to amaze me, spoke candidly of the pain and the healing, of the love we found in the ashes of my past. It was a conversation I never expected, one that laid bare the cost of our happiness and the journey we embarked on together. In the wake of that encounter, my former wife sought forgiveness, a gesture that spoke volumes of her journey through the maze of her own emotions and realizations. Yet, as much as I wished to offer her solace, my heart remained silent. Forgiveness, like love, is a complex tapestry of feelings and memories, not easily untangled by words or gestures. As the dust settled and the echoes of our past began to fade, I found myself looking forward, not with bitterness or regret, but with a hopeful heart. The path we chose was not easy, fraught with challenges and lessons learned the hard way, but it was ours to walk, filled with the promise of new beginnings and the possibility of love reborn from the ashes of despair. In the end, the legal finality of our divorce was not just the closing of a book, but the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter where the pain of the past serves not as an anchor but as a compass, guiding us towards a future built on the foundations of understanding, forgiveness, and a love that endured the fiercest of storms. In the aftermath of a marriage that spiraled into the abyss, the remnants of a life once cherished lay bare, an unrecognizable landscape of what used to be a shared dream. The final chapter of our story doesn't start with a bang but with the silent echo of a door closing, a symbolic end to a saga that unfolded with the unpredictable force of a storm, leaving nothing but wreckage in its wake. The divorce settlement was the final nail in the coffin, not just for the marriage but for the life I knew. Financial stability, once a given, now teetered on the edge of uncertainty. The house we once called home, the car we drove, even the simple pleasures we took for granted, all dissected and divided, leaving me in a precarious position. The realization that the fight for love had morphed into a battle for survival was a bitter pill to swallow. In the quest for a new beginning, I found myself at the doorstep of the job market, a world that seemed alien after years of shared financial comfort. Resumes sent into the void. Interviews that felt more like interrogations, each rejection a reminder of the steep hill I had to climb. The community we once built together, the friends we shared, all seemed to have vanished into thin air, leaving a void that no job offer could fill. Loneliness became my constant companion, a shadow that followed me into the quiet nights and the bustling days. The life I envisioned, filled with laughter, love, and companionship, seemed like a distant memory, a dream that faded with the morning sun. Attempts to reach out, to reconnect with old friends, were met with cold shoulders and awkward silences. The realization that my actions, driven by hurt and a desire for revenge, had alienated those who mattered most, was a harsh truth to face. Encounters with old friends, once a source of comfort and joy, now served as a painful reminder of the isolation that had become my reality. Conversations that once flowed freely were now strained, filled with unspoken judgments and pitying glances. The community that I thought would be my safety net had turned its back, leaving me to navigate the stormy waters of rebuilding alone. In the midst of this solitude, a moment of clarity struck. The pursuit of revenge, a path I walked with a heart heavy with betrayal, had led not to the redemption I sought, but to my own undoing. The destruction I wrought, not just on my marriage but on myself, was a lesson learned in the harshest way possible. The realization that I was the architect of my downfall was a truth I had to accept, a step towards understanding the depth of my mistakes. Resignation to my fate became the only path forward, acceptance of the new reality that lay before me. The dreams of reconciliation, of redemption, faded into the background, replaced by the understanding that some actions are beyond forgiveness, some bridges too burned to cross. The journey ahead, marked by the consequences of my choices, was one I had to walk alone, a cautionary tale of love lost and lessons painfully learned. In the end, the silence that filled my days was not just the absence of noise, but the quiet acceptance of a fate I could no longer change. The pursuit of revenge, a fire that once burned with righteous anger, had consumed everything in its path, leaving behind only ashes. As I looked ahead to the uncertain future, the only certainty was the resolve to never repeat the mistakes of the past.